We at the Adventure Bike Shop have used our experience from our own halfway around the world and back travels. To put together a range of products that we think are top quality, will last you a trip. Brands we know and trust, products we've used ourselves. Dumb products, and what am I going to say? Welcome to the Adventure Bike Shop. This is now getting good.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of
Adventure Bike TV.
Hello and welcome once again to Adventure Bike TV. As always, we've got a packed show for you, and we're starting this month's show with our bike review, and by popular demand it's the Triumph Tiger Explorer. Doesn't matter what angle I look at this bike from, I'm still a bit confused. And I'm confused by the looks. I'm confused about whether I like the looks. And I'm equally as confused about where this bike sits in the adventure marketplace. It's obviously not trying to compete, I don't think, in terms of its off-road capability with the likes of the KTM or the GS. But where else, against all the other bikes, does it fit? So let's get to the data on this bike. Wet weight is 259 kilos wet, almost bang on the same as the GS 1200, which is 260 kilos, but it's a hefty 30 kilos more than the KTM 1190. Power is 135 brake horsepower, which is a whacking 41 horsepower more than the little 800cc brother, but it's low against the bad boys like the KTM and the Multistrada that punch in 150 horsepower plus. Equipment levels are good, with traction control, cruise control, switchable ABS, a big alternator and immobiliser all as standard. Fuel consumption should be somewhere between 45 and 68 miles per gallon claimed, but you'll only get that upper figure when you're riding super skinny and on the motorway limit. Pricing is interesting, $11,599 versus $12,999 for the KTM Adventure, $12,850 for the GS, $12,995 for the Multistrada and $10,000 for the V-Strom Adventure. So it is competitively priced. It's heavy like a GS, but it's not quite as quick turning around some of these steeper corners, and oddly it's much lower to the ground. When I stop, I can get both feet very clearly flat down. But it's not uncomfortable. In fact, quite the opposite. That triple engine is very, very smooth. You know what? But I think there might lie a bit of a problem. The whole package, it just feels a little bit uninspiring. I'm not. My boat is not being hugely floated by this package, and we'll just have to see if that changes as we ride it over the next day or so. Our second day of testing on the Explorer, and the weather has taken a slight change for the worst, which is why I'm in full waterproofs and hat. The look of this bike is just a little bit low and squat for me, and that's odd because you can see the relationship between the Explorer and the 800, but whereas the 800 is tall and long-limbed, just somehow those looks, for me, they don't really translate that well to the 1200. In terms of the instrumentation on the Explorer, the instrument panel for me actually is really clear and easy to read. But I have seen some reviews where they've been a bit sniffy about it, but for me, it's perfectly fine. And the luggage swings slightly from side to side, and it's meant to do that as you go around corners. And again, I've seen some reviews about that have been a bit uppity about it, but for me, it's absolutely fine. I don't notice it at all when I'm riding. The cruise control. Now, it's a standard piece of equipment, but I just don't really see the point on a bike. The ride, the handling and the comfort for me on the bike are absolutely fine. It's smooth round corners, the performance for me doesn't set me on fire, but I could easily see myself doing a lot of miles every day on it. Now, the engine. On this one, I'm going to be a little bit against the grain. I do understand the theory about the Triumph Triple. It's meant to have the torque of a twin, but the smoothness of an inline four, and I do get that, and it does have both. But there's just a little bit about that combination for me that it misses what excites me about a twin, and it misses the complete smoothness of an inline four, and it just doesn't do it for me. So I've been riding in the Explorer for almost a day and a half now, and the feeling I had at the start is still there. I just don't know quite where it fits. If I wanted a bike that was capable of doing more off-road, I'd take a GS or I'd take the KTM 1190. If I wanted something that had gut-wrenching, shoulder-pulling speed, I'd take the Multistrada. And if I wanted a long-distance shaft drive bike, I'd probably still go with the GS or maybe even the Super Tenere. I just don't know where it fits. And to make matters worse, the 800, which our producer swears by and that I rode for 2 weeks up to the Arctic last summer, is more fun on the tarmac and it's perfectly capable off-road. And then you've got the 1050, which is a great road bike. So where does that leave the poor old 1200? Triumph talk about the Explorer as a bike built for adventure. I'd say it's a bike built for a long distance ride on nice, wide, open roads. Now, if you're a fan of the Triumph triple engine and you want a long distance tourer, it could absolutely be the bike for you. But would there be room for this in my garage? Nope. So keep your eyes out because Bob's going to be taking the bike around the track very, very soon. And now it's time for our next destruction test. This time it's the turn of motorcycle jeans. We were trying to work out where the best place would be to come and do the test for the jeans. And where better than the London Rally Score! So, we contacted 20 of the manufacturers and brands that you'd expect to see in this type of test. And at the end, there were only 5 who were willing to put their products in. So we've got 2 pairs of jeans from Resurgence, we've got 2 pairs of jeans from Maple, we've got 2 pairs of jeans from Bullet, 1 from Furigan and 1 from Revit. And these little monsters are going to help us do the test. And as always with Adventure Bike TV, we've gone super high tech with our scoring mechanism. I will talk a bit more about each test as we get to it, but essentially we're going to be doing looks, feel, testing the strength of the seams, we're going to do a drag test, we're going to test heat resistance, cut resistance, and then we'll total up the points to give us the best in test, and then we'll look at the price and that'll give you our best value. Okay, first pair of jeans, the Bullet Indie Volo. First impressions, yeah, they're comfortable and I like the look of them. They're simple, a classic look, and they're not constricting me nastily when I do this, although the knee pads do feel a little bit low. And when I jump on the bike, yep, didn't cut anything off. Those knee pads still a bit low. I'll have to see if I can push them up a little bit. As we're going alphabetically, the next pair is another Bullet, the Chino SR6, and a very, very different look to the last pair because they're chinos, and actually a different cut entirely, a much more modern slimline cut. I'm unconvinced as to whether that works with an old man like me, but still comfy, although a little closer than the others. In terms of getting on the bike, it's a little more of a stretch, and these knee pads are exactly where they need to be. I'm not quite sure where to start with these. They're a very different material. They're not a kind of classic jean. Makes me feel a bit more like I want to walk into a disco and do my lunge. Yeah. They are very, very tight, that's for sure. But I can still get on the bike and it's fine, apart from where my belly's hanging over the waist. These are the Maple 1976s. And they do look really, really smart. But I think I'd have been better wearing them at the age I was in 1976, because they are a very, very close fit. That's about as hard as I can go. And that's definitely a little bit tight. Definitely. I'm not sure I'll be able to manage a full journey on these. Maple 1979s. Fantastic looking jeans, and actually when you check out the detail on the back, very nice. They're not the most comfortable ones out of the lot we've been wearing so far. I can feel the seams scratching on my legs, but they're fine getting on the bike. They do look rather nice. Resurgence Indigo. Slightly different look to the other pair, but the same really solid, heavy feel and comfortable. Again, no seams scratching inside. Good stretch on the lunge. Yeah, and exactly the same comfortable, stretchy feel on the bike. Resurgence Vintage. Nice looking pair of jeans. Heavy when you pick them up, and they feel heavy on, but that gives them a solid feel. And nice and stretchy when I lunge. Getting on the bike, no issues there at all. Very comfy. You're sharp. I'm a professional. The Revit Lombard jean, a very different cut to all the other ones we've tested so far. As you can see from my left leg, it actually ends halfway down my boot, so I'm not quite sure if you're meant to wear it in boot or not. And quite a slim, tight feel, but nothing cutting up. And onto the bike. Not too bad at all. Our first test is the rip test. And as with all our tests on Adventure Bike TV, it's not particularly scientific, but we are trying to make it as consistent and as fair as possible. Now, we can't test every single seam on the jeans, so we're going to test the same seam on each pair of jeans, and it's this one here. So we've got a strap through each leg, and we're going to pull the ratchet until something goes pop. Of course, by testing this here, we are in fact testing the poppers and the zip as well. Well, that was the rip test. And you know what? We genuinely thought we'd start pulling some of those seams apart. In reality, the only damage we managed to do to any of them was to make the top hole where the popper goes through just a little bit bigger. And it just goes to prove how strong all these jeans are and the faith that the manufacturers who put them in the test have in their product. Now it's time for a break, and when we come back we'll be having a quick update from Nathan Millward.
We have the largest selection of hard luggage under the one roof in this country. Bollocks.
Some people learn to ride a motorbike growing up on a farm. I was trained by the military. Some people spend their mornings stuck in traffic. My daily commute is a bit more extreme. In my time, I've been bitten by snakes, pinned by rapids, survived parachute failure and Everest crevasses. My adventures are anything but what you'd call ordinary. And this new Triumph, well, I always knew riding a Tiger would be something spectacular.
We are the sole UK stockist of the Redverse 10, the original Park Your Bike in the Garage 10. We also have a range of tents and other camping equipment from a number of trusted brands. That was
Now we've got a small segment from Nathan, who was very unhappy about me getting the budget bike around the track with no problem at all. So he's made a few improvements to Dorothy.
Hi, welcome to Wales, where the sun is shining once again. Last episode of the show, Graham laid down the gauntlet by completing the lap around our track on his budget bike, his 250 budget bike, which I didn't realise it was 250, but I think that's why he completed it. And when he made fun of me not completing it on a 105, that's probably why he's got more power. So with such a challenge set, I went away with Dorothy, my motorcycle, and I thought about increasing the engine size, changing the wheels, tyres maybe, and just looking at ways that I could improve the lap, or at least complete the lap. And this is what I came up with. This is now Dorothy. Taking a little bit of a transformation, I suppose. I mean, some people could say it looks now a little bit like a BMW GS. And I think you're probably right, it does look a bit like a GS. But that's no bad thing. Looking a bit dirty, that's because I just fell off in a puddle and told the producers just had to pick me up. Thankfully I had panniers on, but I've only managed to scuff one engine casing already. and I don't know if you can see this, but I've also had to modify the screen. I don't know if can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. This is a high performance modification involving packaging tape after the struts for the screen broke. Also issues, I only owned the bike for a week. The other frustrations, I managed to leave the disc lock on while moving the bike out of the garage. So that's broke that mudguard. So far the first week's tenure with the BMW have been a little bit fraught, a little bit frantic, but you know, we're going to go for a ride and maybe see if we can get it around the track at least. Yeah, I didn't enjoy that very much, to be honest. I think that was a combination of three things. Bad tyres, wet ground and bad riding skill. But no, I mean, I don't feel comfortable taking this round a lap, and I don't think there's any point. I mean, could have put some TKC 80s on, but at the end of the day, I'm not Bob. At the end of the day, I've got to pay next instalment on this in 2 weeks' time, and I'd like to still be able to ride it, and rather it be a piece of trash. So, no, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, these bikes are, in real reality, I mean, you can ride them around here, as Bob proves, but for the layman like such as myself, it's a lot of bike for such terrain. Obviously, something smaller would be a lot better, but you know, like I say, for this ride back home to the Midlands, really looking forward to it. Well, so far, so good with the bike. So obviously this isn't Dorothy, aka Honda CT110. This is it's a BMW R1200 GS. It's a liquid cooled 2014 model. It's 1 year old, done 3,500 miles when I got it. It is my bike. It's something I bought with my own money, or the bank's money. Bought it and then I'm paying the bank off for the next 97 years, I think. But it's a bike I've always liked when I've ridden them in the past, and this one in particular is an exercise paver bike. So it's one that I'd done a year at the riding school down in the valley. So it's got a few knocks and dings, and that's kind of why it's a more affordable price. Mechanically it's sound, cosmetically it's a little bit knocked around. Well, that's not too much of an issue, because the intention was to get one to actually use it, to get it dirty, as has happened today. Though sadly today it's got dirty by falling off. We were going to fit some TKC 80s and take it around the track, but to be honest, it's my bike with my own money, and I'm not confident enough in my own abilities to get it around this track without throwing it down a hill. So with all that in mind, we've done a bit of riding and we got it dirty and fell off, realised how heavy it is to pick up. But no, I'm really enjoying it, really enjoying the road riding experience. Obviously it's a long distance bike, it's brilliant. But coming here to Wales today from Birmingham, I took a lot of back roads, some country lanes, and I think what I always love about this bike and why I've gone for this, I mean, I also love a V-Strom 1000. I was tempted to get a V-Strom 1000, but because I could have got a new one, almost a new one. The reason I've gone for this, I just love the mid-range. I think the mid-range torque is nice, there's so much immediate power there. Obviously visually, it just makes you feel good. It's a feel-good bike actually, and I get a bit sick of the stigma attached to GSs personally. I mean, when I'm at shows with my bike, my 105cc, people come up and say, oh, it just shows you don't need a GS, and them tossers on GSs, blah blah blah. So there's a lot of negativity around this bike and around the brand, and it kind of gets a bit tiresome, because you know, bikes are bikes, and as long as you're riding your bike, it don't really matter what it is. And you know, adventure's just about buying the most suitable bike for that adventure. For me, the Honda CT110 was perfect at that time, coming home from Australia. Now, you know, this suits me. I've got a girlfriend, I want to put her on back. You never know, she might want to ride it. So I've got a bike with the power, the range, I can do Europe if I want. Obviously, you know, the option would have been to get an adventure, though one wasn't available at the right price. Personally, I still maintain that the standard GS is a better bike than the Adventure in pretty much all conditions apart from long range touring. The 300 mile range of the Adventure is good, but the downfall of having that range is the size of the tank and the size of the mass around this frontal area, and I just find that a bit too much, especially when you're pushing and pulling it around, and also when you're riding it, it just feels a bit too much of an elephant. Though still massively capable machine, but just for me and what I intend to do with it, the standard GS is a perfect bike. You know, there's a few things that I'm not happy about on it so far, just fit and finish, or quality, overall quality. Some of the components have let me down already. The screen is currently bracketed to the bike by packing tape, because the two brackets that hold the screen in place have snapped, and I can only assume that's fatigue through the 3,000 miles it's done off road, so it's bouncing around a bit. And then I put a bike cover over it the other night, and when I took it off, screen flapped. The front mudguard, that snapped, was largely due to owner error in leaving the disc lock on when I just rolled it backwards on the drive. Just cracked the mudguard, revealing just how brittle that front mudguard plastic is. You'd kind of expect a little bit better, but you know, it's modern day and age. We're cutting costs, and minimalising production costs is kind of king. So that's just the way of the world, and I guess all bikes are built with those sort of costs in mind. So not the end of the world. Frustrated, and I've scuffed a brand new side casing today, which is equally annoying. But I'm enjoying the ride home more than I am taking it around this track, and I think that's the main thing. I've got a 200 mile ride back, and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to find some back roads and yeah, just potter along. I love having a bit of cruise control, you know, sitting at 70 and taking in the scenery. For me, it's the adventure bike that I need right now.
The producer has refused to tell me the time Nathan took to get around the track, so I guess you guys will find out when I do. And speaking of budget bikes, now it's time for an update on mine. I was planning on doing an update on the ultimate budget adventure bike at some point over the next week, and circumstances, it would seem, were taken out of my hands last night when I was just sat around at home and the all-pervading smell of fuel started wafting over me and the family. And when I came out to the garage to have a look, this is what I found. Unfortunately, there's a great big pool of nasty looking fuel there on the floor. So my only choice really now is to get this little beast out the garage, start stripping bits off it, and see what the hell's wrong with it. So I've taken quite a few bits off the bike now, and what I thought was probably quite a quick and simple renovation, I don't think it's going to be. And when I look down my list, just the things that I've just in the last 10 minutes noted down. So I need to renew the fuel lines, I need to get a new headlamp because I bust it going around the track. I've got to try and remove as much weight as possible from it, so I need some lightweight indicators, try and get a plastic chain guard. I need to get the whole rear chain guard and mudguard assembly off because it's all solid metal and it's really heavy. Probably need to see if I can change the tyres. There's a nice little space here for a toolkit. Get that leaking carb sorted out. And then once that's done, I guess only then, when I've tried to get the weight off, can I think about how on earth am I going to carry anything on this thing? I need to keep all my luggage as small and as light as possible. That's got to be the key. Now it's time for Slimbo's superlative suggestions.
And it's time for another one of Slimbo's superfluous suggestions. You know when you're travelling around and your gear gets dirty, especially your shreddies, your socks, your t-shirts, and you've got to get them clean. Now there's several ways people have done it before in the past, but there's never ever a laundrette when you really need one. First things first, you're going to need one of these. Any roll top waterproof bag will do. This one's a rather nice one. We know this is waterproof, so that's good. The next thing you're going to need, a little bit of washing powder. If you're not that clever in packing away some washing powder, I'll tell you what'll work, shower gel. We always take shower gel with us to make sure we're nice and clean. And then obviously, your dirty gear. And finally, a bit of the H2O. Always helps, only a little bit needed. First thing we're going to do, open up the bag. We're going to put our dirty gear in. And then, he said, very carefully, we're going to tip in some of our washing powder. Put that to one side, make sure that's mixed up. Then, pour in the water. You don't need a huge amount for this. So there we go. Half a jug, not a problem. Next step, roll the waterproof bag up. Now on this particular one, clips up on the sides here and here. Sorted. Next thing you're going to do here, strap that to the back of the bike and go for a ride. Now if you're setting off in the morning, you forgot to get your gear washed, or you just decided to change your clothes because that curry was a little bit overexcitable last night, then this is ideal. Pack your bike away, stick this on top of your bags. What's going to happen when you ride? It's going to do this. It's going to be bouncing around like a good one. And what will happen when you get to the end of the ride? You open it up and voila, clean clothes. Of course you'll have to rinse them out, but that won't make a difference because I'll tell you what, they'll smell a lot better than the ones you got on at the time.
Now it's time for Top Tech. This month's Top Tech is the Black Diamond Gizmo 35 lumen head torch, and there's two particular things I like about this torch. One is that the light will automatically switch off after 2 hours, which is perfect for me because I'll always take it off from the tent and leave it on. And the second one is that it dims, but it's not just any old dimming light where you switch down and it's got 2 levels. You hold a button down and you can set exactly how dim you want it to go. So that's perfect if you don't want to blind your mates when you're sat around the campfire. We'll be back after the break with the second part of the jeans test and a revolutionary new motorbike product.
Adventure Bike Shop, we also do a wide range of soft luggage, if that's more your thing.
I went out for a ride on Sunday where I wore them all day long. They never got hot. I could feel the protective Kovac as it ran all the way down past my knee, which gave me the peace of mind that if something happened, I'd be protected. After the ride was over, I didn't want to change out of them. They're that comfortable, and this new Kovac material is new and improved over any other protective fabric-like material on the market today. This Kovac SR6 is a unique laminate construction and its high-performance knitted textile yarn that offers unrivaled high-speed abrasion resistance. I've worn riding jeans that feel like I've strapped a piece of cardboard to my leg, but these bullet jeans are nothing like that.
We really care about the adventure motorcycle market and try to make it as many shows as possible to see our customers. So if you can't come to the shop, come see us at a show.
Welcome back from the break. Now we've taken ourselves off to South Wales to come and see this amazing new product. We are at March Moto Madness and we're testing a brand new product that we think will revolutionise the comms market. Now this new product is from Recycle.com and it has two particularly special features. The first is that it's made from 100% recycled material, and the second is it's got virtually limitless distance that you can use it at. Now we're going to test it and see whether it's worth the £49.99 sale price.
Well, these recycle comms are absolutely fantastic. Because they're actually recycled as well, it's even better. So it's like an eco-warrior recycle comm. Fantastic. I recommend them, and you can buy them online at Adventure Bike TV online.
Well, I've tried the new intercom and I think it's absolutely fantastic. The voice clarity is superb. Bike to bike, it's absolutely excellent. Riding skills, it improves your riding skills. You can speak to other people when you're riding. It's just brilliant. I highly recommend it. I'd definitely go for it.
Right. Woo! So what did you think, Craig?
Well, the clarity is just incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. I could hear you all the way around there.
I didn't get any wind noise. I was quite amazed by that.
No, nothing at all. No feedback. Nothing. It's just absolutely as clear as a bell.
And what struck me most of all was the there's no limits on it. I mean, how long's a piece of string? We could go for miles apart.
It's the versatility of the string. You could be 50 miles apart with a long enough string. You're there.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? If we ran out, I think it'd be quite easy to find new stuff as well.
Absolutely. You wouldn't have to call into a specialist hardware shop.
No.
Perfect.
No. I think it's fantastic. Absolutely, a wonderful product.
Wonderful product. I agree.
If you'd like to order one of these incredible new products, please go to Adventure Bike TV's online shop. Now, before we get to the second part of the jeans test, we've got an Under the Visor with Nick Plum.
James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.
Hi, I'm Nick Plum, MD of Touratech UK. 37 years old. Done quite a bit in my time with Dakar rallies, obviously this business, the Dawn to Dusk Enduro, and we're just doing something with some dirt bikes and Husqvarnas now as well. It was at the age of around about 14 when I remembered I used to live in South East London. I remember looking out my bedroom window and seeing some people out there on a little C90 back then it was, and thought that looked fun. And one of the guys I knew, so goes down there, asked him for a little go. Jumped on this C90, never ridden a bike before, and just remembered going straight into a brick wall. But just realising that it was only a short little distance, but just at that point now, I thought that was fun. Just picked the bike back up and then realised how it worked, and ever since then it's been bikes really. And a place in southeast London where we lived was it was a bit of biker heaven really. We had some great fields and some great tarmac places where we can go ride bikes. So never really looked back. And then almost to being the fact of getting a paper round to be able to fuel my hobby, shall we say. And then from paper round to getting a pizza delivery round just so I could ride a bike delivering pizzas and kebabs and stuff. And I was very fortunate to have got kind of a work experience job at a place called Bracken Motorcycles back then. That was part of Touratech, that used to bring in the Touratech products. I used to go to a motorcycle project, and I think it was that kind of turned me around. That was called the Archway Project, and that's when I first met Simon Pavey and Joe Searchfield, who were my should we say, my two mentors when it comes to bike riding. And obviously Simon, being the Dakar guru he was back then, and I just kind of bonded with him really well, and they kind of, I would say, took me under their wing, and just went on from there really. And then I was fortunate to kind of become a BMW off-road instructor for Simon, training people like the Ewan McGregor and Charlie Ballman for their trips. And then that went on to obviously the big race being the Dakar Rally, and I think when you're around Simon and stuff, that's all they kind of talk about. That's all they kind of gauge their life around going and do that. I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to have a go as well, and it has been for me from the age of, as I say, 14. But then when I started Touratech up, because I worked for Bracken Motorcycles, and Johnny wanted to get out of it, and I kind of took it over from then and moved to Wales. That was around about 15 years ago now, I think it was. It was about 15 years ago. So first Dakar, starting up Touratech, did an advert for HSBC Bank, which was really cracking in South America. And it's just snowballed. It really has snowballed from there. So at quite an early age, I feel like I've done a lot, but it's all been bikes. Now I've got 3 children. My youngest now is Ruby at kind of 6 years old. Yeah, she's just about to turn 6. And now, just starting to hopefully slow it down a little bit. Business is going good. Riding, I'm still getting out riding bikes a lot and stuff. Now I'm starting to do a bit more on the big adventure bikes, and maybe planning bigger trips to do stuff on the bigger bikes as opposed to the small enduro bikes all the time. No, I suppose, again, I was lucky enough to become a BMW off-road instructor, and I think because of my riding skills and even I'm quite short, I kind of adapted really well on the big bikes and could ride them quite well, and I suppose my first break in the adventure market would have been when I did this advert for HSBC, and that saw me take a BMW R1150 GS, I think that was an adventure, around South America, from Buenos Aires, going into Chile. Okay, it was filming, so it was like stop, start, stop and start, but I had a fantastic time, saw some fantastic sights. Obviously I had a bug then, of course, but I was still quite young. But that did see me then going to Australia with my wife, doing some riding on the big bikes there, and Tasmania. Again, I've been very much a BMW man in my early days and stuff, and now with Touratech it's multi-franchise. I mean, I'm spending a bit more time on Triumphs and Ducatis and KTMs and stuff. So only a few bits on the big bikes, but now, it really is. I enjoy them. There's no question about it. I enjoy the big bikes, but it's always hard to get away to do big trips when you're trying to run the business and stuff. So now I can see me trying to spend a bit more time, on the big bikes. But still, the little bikes are still my passion, I suppose, because from where I live, from where I work, the mountains are all around me, so it's literally just jump out on a bike and go for a spin. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dakar for me was, it had its ups and downs, and I've been really lucky enough to have done it, finished. But now that it's changed, it is kind of in South America. I think I'd like to go and ride in South America, and there's obviously lots of events you can do, but Dakar being the one. I wouldn't mind having another opportunity to have another go, but really it's not about the Dakar. When you do the Dakar event, I've done lots of other little events. Dakar really do something different to everybody else, and you've got to dig deep. You've got to find things about yourself you didn't know, and there's a side of me that doesn't really want to do that anymore because I've been there, done it. But of course, I think a lot of us still have that little thing inside. You said, can I do it? You know, I'm a bit older now. I haven't done as much riding, a bit heavier than I used to be, and you know, a bit wiser. So there is maybe a little itch, but it's more to do with the country as opposed to the actual rally itself, I suppose. Well, again, you know, I do use the word luck quite a lot. There is a lot of hard work that goes in that as well. I'm passionate about things that I do, and when I took Touratech on, as I say, around about 15 years ago, Touratech was a different company, not only in the UK but worldwide as well. But because when I do something, I put a lot into it, and Touratech was my passion. It's bikes, okay, it was the bigger bikes, but it was a way for me to ride them and make money. And hopefully try and have the lifestyle that I wanted and could see that I wanted in the future. So a lot of hard work, but for me, I ride, you know, and I think success from that has been where I've been able to train the likes of Ewan and Charlie for their trips, and even train other people from, you know, well, there's loads of people that have done so many trips that I've either helped to train or just been out riding with, or had the opportunities to ride in other countries with them. So it's not just been about sitting behind a desk answering phones. In the early parts, I've actually been on the bikes, been out there with the people, and I think that, you know, if you cut me, you know, I would bleed yellow. I mean, I've been Touratech for so long that it's all I know, really. You know, Touratech is all I know, but because I enjoy doing it, and I think that's for a lot of businesses. If you are the boss, if you are the person who does make the decisions, and you've got a good team around you, but if you're enjoying what you do, it will always be a success. And I think for me, that's what it's been about. Well, I suppose I'm sure it happens in a lot of places around the world, and I think we've got to be quite pleased with the fact that Touratech is such a big brand now, and it is such a big brand that it's given people the, I suppose, the opportunity to say and to do things like that. I suppose there's lots of companies out there, and I think when you start getting to a certain size, I'm sure it brings all kinds of people out of the woodworm. And I think in the UK, it probably is a lot worse than a lot of the places around the world. But I would probably take those kind of things as a compliment, because it just means Touratech has made a brand, and it has made a brand name for itself. Touratech Germany is where you can get Touratech products the cheapest, of course. They're manufactured there. Nowhere else in the world, not even in Europe, are they the same prices. Because we don't have the euro, and other places around the world as well that doesn't have the euros, the prices can vary quite a bit more than they do in the rest of Europe. It is something that has been brought to our attention, of course, and it is something that we're always looking at. It's one of those things that I think lately, I mean, the prices have gone much better for us, and we are looking at them. To give you a couple of examples, we've had some of our new products starting to turn up, from our clothing, from our helmets, and we have tried to look at those to try and get ourselves in more of a standing point with the rest of Europe, because we're doing some fantastic products. In the UK, I suppose we do, like every business, we have got our overheads like everywhere else. I do feel we're quite strong in the UK when it comes to shows and putting that extra little bit in, which is what Touratech want from every Touratech around the world. So it's something that's being looked at. We could never be the same prices as the rest of Europe and Germany, but it's definitely something that has been brought to our attention. And again, like I said before, I think it is probably the minority, but I agree, we've got to try and get our prices a little bit better than they are now. Definitely a bit more family time. I mean, we've just got a new daughter, as I say, she's 6 years old, so before we know it, she's already growing up. But I definitely want to go and do the family stuff away from the biking. She's not quite into bikes, so if she was, then she'd probably be around Touratech quite a lot. But yeah, so me and my wife and my younger daughter, because the other two are now growing up. Alfie, being my eldest son, he's like the main man at Touratech now, so he's almost taken over the ropes from me to allow me to, one, spend a bit more quality time with the family, but also, you know, I do want to ride a bit more. I mean, there's a trip planned to Namibia with some other Touratech distributors. So it really is so that I've got a good team here, so it will allow me to go off. I'm always contactable. As I say, I'm 24/7 Touratech, so I'm always contactable, but I really want a good team here, and with my son now growing up and been part of the business for so long, I'm really hoping that he's starting to, and he is, really starting to grasp it and take a lot of pressure off me.
James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.
Now it's the conclusion of the motorcycle jeans test. You may be wondering, why the protective gear? Well, we were trying to work out, without coming off the bike and skidding along the ground, how best to test the effect of actually being dragged along the ground. And the producer came up with what he thought was a brilliant idea of getting me to ski behind the car on top of the jeans, so simulating the effect of coming off the bike. That's why the protective gear. I'm not sure this is a particularly good idea. So, what can we say about the drag test? Probably the most fun you can have on 2 feet being dragged behind a car, that's for sure. But about the jeans, well, none of them had the holes going all the way through the Kevlar, so that's really important to say. They were all really good in that respect. But we did have a very wide range, from holes through both sides and the insides where they rucked around my feet, through to at the other end of the extreme, no holes at all anywhere through the denim, and everything in between. So our next test is the heat test. We want to check out what happens to your poor backside when you're scooting on the ground at whatever miles an hour it is. So how are we going to generate the heat? Well, we're going to generate heat through friction through one of these. And then how are we going to test when that gets unbearable? It'll be when our water-filled balloon bursts full of red dye. Our very final test is the cut test. Now we know these jeans are really, really tough, and it's no good just trying to go through it with a sharp knife. That's just going to have no effect whatsoever. So we're going to use an angle grinder, and we're going to push through our hardest for a fixed period of time and see how much damage it does. To this ham. So, after a fantastic day of testing, we finally got the scores on the doors. But before I go through those, just a few comments. Importantly, nothing here was rubbish. Everything we tested was really good. But there were a few surprises. So the Revit, for example, on the heat test, it doesn't have an obvious Kevlar liner, but it did the best on that test. And in terms of the scores for the looks, the Maple 76 and the Maple 79 got the highest and the lowest. But we didn't think they looked that dissimilar. But there we go. Fit. We asked for the same size from everybody. But as you saw earlier, the range was huge, from skinny to baggy to long to short. So the key thing is, if you want to buy something, go in and test it. And to a point, you do get what you pay for. In terms of the winners of each section then, so for looks, we had the Furagan and the Maple 76 and the Rivet Lombard, all joint winners of looks. In terms of the feel, we had the Bullet Indie, we had the Resurgence Indigo and the Resurgence Vintage, all joint winners. Everyone did fantastically on the seams, same scores. The Bullet Indie won the drag test. The Revit Lombard won the heat test, and the Bullet Indie won the cut test. So, which one got the best in test? Well, it was a close run thing, but by 1 point, it was the Bullet Indie. And in terms of best value for money, because the Bullet Indie is pretty pricey, we believe it's the Resurgence Vintage. And there we go. So, that was the show. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. What's that? This food's cold. This is rubbish. Look at the weather. I want hot food. Give me some hot food. So, that was the show. That was the show. That was yes, that was shit. That was shit. So that was the show, and that was shit. Now it's time for Top Tech.
You know I'm going to use that one.
That's all right. I don't mind.
Cool. Do it again.
Don't need to do it again. But in the end, there was only 5 who were willing to put them into the test, who were willing to put their product where their mouth is, and that doesn't work. We genuinely,
Time and then
I did great. Great adverts, rubbish at adventures.
you get it wrong, it's yours. Right, we'll do it one more time and then
I did great. Great adverts, rubbish at adventures.
I didn't hear it click. It's not. It's a recording. It's not a photo. But we will do a photo after this.
We're talking.
Okay. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Rubbish adverts, great adventure!